Welcome to Kino Society with Owen Shapiro.
Welcome back to Kino Society. On today's episode, we have Laurel Bergman, a production designer and artist who comes from a strong art director background. Laurel has contributed to many of the most successful feature films of the last decade: 2012, Godzilla, 50 Shades of Grey, Mission Impossible 4, and she has worked with the industry's leading actors, producers, and acclaimed directors. What's more, Laurel's contributions have been recognized by the Academy Awards, the BAFTA Award for Best Picture, and the Art Directors Guild Award. Let's get to know Laurel and her work a bit better. Hi, Laurel. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
So clearly, with your extensive professional experience, it's necessary to start this interview from your very beginnings. How did you find your interest in art direction and production design inside the film industry?
Well, I started in sculpture and installation, really. But I think it was, before that, just in general, having an unwavering spirit of curiosity and, wanting to live a full version of myself. I stumbled into film, really, and there's a world opened up for me. And it's been growing ever since. It's about being brave, and it's about examining what's uncomfortable, which, film is all about that. It's about reading constantly, which I love to read, and, embracing multiple views of one story. And, I'm constantly reminded every day that there are people doing great things, and it inspires me to participate alongside them.
So you have training and experience in industrial and architectural design, right?
Yeah. I did get my degree in sculpture and installation, and then, sort of developed my architectural side of things because I was sort of gearing towards, studying sculpture to integrate with architecture. And until I ended up, with film, and it all came together really in a job I didn't even know existed when I was younger. So I'm very, I'm happy to have found this media. I've always been interested in how fine art and architecture and the outcome of, immersing someone into a new environment provides a new perspective and ways of seeing or insight into our own narratives. And light, color, and composition have always been in my toolbox for as long as I can remember. So production design was a natural progression of this expression.
So how did you end up finding film?
Well, I had student loans I needed to pay back, and I needed a job. That's the simple answer. And I found a shop that was building things, and it seemed like a natural fit with, all my hands-on experience. And then I met, going on set and then meeting the paint coordinator and telling him about my, art background and fine art painting. He said, well, come join the paint department. So I did that. And then I joined the sculpture department, and I was on, the floor in the construction department doing sculpture. And then through all that, I joined the props department because I was making mechanical things and machining and mold making and all these things. And so I've really explored all those sort of practical sides of making a film from the art and production design side of things, which I think is rare. I've since learned is, many people just sort of stumble into the art department and, they don't have the practical hands-on experience. So I feel fortunate, really.
So how do you think that going through all these departments helps you in your career that you have today?
Well, it gives me an understanding of how to make things, what can be made, and where to fit all the departments together. Because, in the art department, we start orchestrating every department together, how they, everyone ties into each other and how we all need to work together. So it really built the foundation for a fluidity of communication that I am grateful for.
When it comes to your specialties, art direction and production design come immediately to mind. Could you describe the difference between each role and how they're different from one another?
Production design is, you have to talk to the director about what the story is behind everything. And each item you dress into a set tells that story and a history. A production designer is someone who takes a script or a story and builds worlds around that story. And we translate these worlds into a visual language and cinematic storytelling. And we're, designing beyond just a set, it's moving art. And the art director, in turn, sort of works in parallel with the production designer and takes all the details that are required to build the set and just expands them and gets the project going. They're like project managers. So you have to, as an art director, you kind of have to know how to step your toe into the production design look and feel and all the sort of emotions and all the language that needs to be told, but at the same time you need to flip it around and actually physically build it and understand how to do that.
So could you describe a typical day as an art director and production designer?
Well, typical day is waking up at 4:35, depending on what time call is, and getting to the set at least an hour earlier. Just making sure that everything is in place, all the departments are there, everyone has their required shopping list of what plays that day, and you stay there, you make sure it's all good, and then you wait for the director and the DP to show up and start blocking the set. So within that, I usually stick around and make sure that they get the first shot off and they're happy. At that point, I peel away, get in my car, drive to the next location, because you're always, 5 steps ahead of production. So usually it's either back to the office or you're onto, the next location that might be playing tomorrow. If you're in the next location that's playing tomorrow, then you're making sure that everyone's on track, and then we're going to be able to deliver the next day. Then back to the office. And then checking in, what are the new drawings on the table? What are the graphics? Department needs what information, and just sort of weaving that all together. And, possibly maybe by that point you need to get back in your car and drive back to set because there's a lunchtime meeting, because the director and all the heads of department who are on set can't leave, and you need a meeting about what's playing in the future. So that usually, happens halfway through the day during the shooting crew's lunch. And then, make sure they're okay again after lunch, and then, continue the same, really.
Have you encountered any more severe problems, like things that went really wrong on set?
Oh, heck yeah. You wouldn't be in film if you haven't faced any of those. Yeah, I mean, of course, there's, I've experienced on The Revenant, we had an entire service access road washout and, stranded crew that day. You name it. Weather is usually part of what makes things extreme or changes the schedule on a dime. At that point, if you can get the crew back to either another location or back to stage for a cover set, so you can at least get something out of your day.
Yeah, The Revenant seemed like a very tough film to film.
Yes, it was definitely different, but well worth it and very rewarding in the end.
Yeah, the end result ended up good. I liked the movie, and a lot of people did.
Yeah, that's the nature of film.
So could you describe a typical day as an art director?
Yeah, so an art director, mostly, if it's your set that's playing that day, then you open set with the production designer. So you're there an hour early with the production designer and making sure everything's good. If the shooting crew is needing sort of more art service based decision making, the production designer who needs to move on to the next set will leave the art director there on set to just make sure that everyone's okay. But again, they peel away and go back to the office and, check in with the set designers, making sure that, whatever revisions or, new drawings are being created are ready to show the designer. And, also, graphics and whatnot. And then also just, following up with all the details with all the different departments.
So what about a day as a production designer?
Well, the day as a production designer was same thing as an art director, but a little more intense. But again, like you're always, the production designer is always sort of in connection and in good, sort of dialogue and communication with the director. You check in with the director and and producers, and just making sure that their sort of vision, or sometimes they can't have a chance to call or email or whatever, so a conversation just to check in with them to make sure that you're in tandem with their vision. It's just that relationship is pretty much distinguishes the production designer.
So production designer has more work to do, definitely.
Yes and no. I mean, it's all a lot of work. It's just a different sort of level of conceptualizing.
Yeah. Which of these two professions most fascinates you, though?
Oh, production design. I love it. My natural sort of abilities are very conceptual and just really sort of painting the picture alongside, the other artists, the director and the DP. I feel fortunate that I get to do this.
All right, so you participated in a lot of more iconic films as well, like Godzilla 2012 and 50 Shades of Grey. How did that feel for you, and which movie of your extensive portfolio did you enjoy the most while making this?
I think they're all very different. And I mean, that's why I love film, because there's no carbon print to get to the finish line. And that's the part I enjoy most, the rapid prototyping, the creative flow that carries it. So, they're all very different, and the sets are very incredibly different. I mean, I enjoyed The Revenant only because, I was outside for 9 months straight through the winter, and hiking in some of the most beautiful scenery in the world. So, but that doesn't take away from, loving designing things, and doing things, let's say on 50 Shades of Grey, when you're doing high-end offices and, looking at all this beautiful architecture and getting to recreate it. So I find that question usually hard to answer, because I love all of it. But what I love most is how dynamically different each show is.
Yeah, 50 Shades of Grey. The problems with it lie more into writing. It still looks like a good movie.
You haven't watched it?
I have. I've seen it. It's.
Okay. I mean, realistically, what I love most about 50 Shades of Grey is that movie came out in theaters right at the end of when I was filming The Revenant, and I was tired and I was, exhausted. I was just beyond at that point. And my friend of mine said, okay, no, I'm dragging you out. We're going to the cinema. So we're going to go see 50 Shades of Grey because you worked on that and I want to see it. So fine. I'm like, okay, fine. We'll go see it. So I remember sitting there in the theater, and I'm already a little fried, and watching this film and watching it all unfold, all the hard work unfold before my eyes. And in that moment, I realized it's all just ridiculous. Like, it's just, you can't, there's a part of you that needs to be passionate about what you do, but you can't get so caught up that it just, it destroys you. So I love the 50 Shades of Grey for that, because it really sort of took me outside of myself and realized how silly it all is.
It is definitely a silly movie.
Hey, but it made a lot of money, so
It made a lot of. It's got 2 sequels as well.
yes, exactly. Yes, I had to read all 3 books because you got to design for the future. So when we were designing the penthouse, you got to make sure there's a service access door by the elevator because in book 3, he runs away. And I remember finishing the first book and I hurled it across the room and I was like, I'm never going to get that time back. But
I have not read the book, but if it ends like the movie, ending is really bad of the first movie. Not to the sequels.
Yep. Goes to show you that, you know,
So how did you get hired in all these movies?
it's really about community, really. And, you build a community of people that where, they sort of know your strengths, and, depending on also the availability of, who's in town, it's like anything, any kind of work, you slowly build a reputation. But the trick is to get your foot in the door and to do a good job and just be open-minded and not, cause too many waves.
I mean, actually, in the last interview I had, the person I was interviewing said that word of mouth is the most important thing.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
So you're particularly interested about bringing new technology inside the filming world. Could you tell us more about this?
Well, I mean, look what they did on Mandalorian, in the volume. I love technology and I love new inventions and new ways of doing it. I mean, it goes to the old sort of tricks that they used in filming with Charlie Chaplin of, perspective, all that sort of tricks of the eye and new developments. I find fascinating. I have a very mechanical, technical head, and so I really gravitate towards exploring new ways of doing things.
So do you think that improvements in technology can bring forth a lot more illusion of film and make way for different kinds of storytelling as well?
I think it can. I mean, you got to be careful that it doesn't drive the actual story. And what happens a lot with these new technologies is, everyone gets on board, but people are so absorbed into trying to resolve the issues around the technology that you lose sight of actually making the film. Which, that's just the natural progression of things. But yeah, I mean, listen, we're all here we're all interested in this in filmmaking. You talk to anyone that, has been in film long enough, and, we all thrive on this kind of exploration and new ideas. It's interesting. It's fascinating. It's fun.
So, as you may or may not know, I'm currently doing an internship with a director, and I hope to have a professional career in filming one day. Do you have any advice for people like me who want to make it big in the film industry?
Just stay true to your passion, and keep, the best filmmakers in this world are nothing but pure passion and creativity. And it's tapping into your inner genius that in reality we all possess. I mean, some just have been fortunate enough to understand the value and know how to utilize this gift. But I mean, I've seen directors get lost in this passion, which is okay. But the flip side of the practicality of making a film and managing the people and the relationships you have on set, can get tricky. And usually it's about the frustration of communication. But your will has to be strong and you have to believe in yourself. I mean, those are my 2 cents, at least. I haven't directed before. I only so that's my Cole's notes for you.
So, you've already built a steady professional career in the film industry as an art director and production designer. What's next for you?
It's just to continue. I mean, to really sort of take the momentum and the skill set I have from, all my art directing and really just sort of changing the statistics of production design. I mean, listen, we have a 16.7% ratio of female production designers out there, and and only 1.5% of those are racialized women. So, I mean, I see that as a challenge and a need that that hopefully will change. I mean, there's no reason why it can't. It's 2021. Almost. I think I've skipped ahead.
Yeah, you're just done with this year already.
I've just blocked out the rest of this year. Yeah.
Speaking of this year being a mess, there is a pandemic across the country recently. How has this affected your work and the film industry as a whole?
Well, I mean, as you know, the film industry has put a pin in things, but it's like within the last month, it's gotten back to work, but it's not without its challenges. I mean, the COVID protocols, from what I understand, for people who are knee deep into it now, are testing once a week and PPE, and you can't go see the sets because you have to get permission. So there's a big sort of dollar amount and time lag amount that is hard to. I mean, film's challenging enough, so it's really slowed the process down, and people in the same office have to Zoom to talk to each other, which is fine. I mean, these are all really good things to participate in, but it's hard for driven people in the film industry to slow down and not just jump ahead. So I really think that I think we've blown through the content, and there's a definite need out there for more films and TV and all that sort of stuff, which is great. I mean, I think that's amazing. But yeah, I mean, listen, we just have to do this safely, and hopefully we'll find our feet.
And do you think that any of these safety procedures are going to be kept for even after this pandemic?
I think we've all been educated on how to, just to be mindful of how germs are spread. Like there might not be the M&M jar anymore in the in the craft service room. That might go, but I think that I think it will have an impact. I think people will, for the most part, return to normal once we get the all clear and it's safe and we have the virus, because we can't help ourselves. We love to just get in there and just go and make films the best way we knew how. But I think that there'll be some slight changes, like maybe on set doing intimate scenes. There could be a new approach to that. We'll see. It'll be interesting.
So finally, where can my listeners find and connect with you?
Well, I'm Instagram at Laurel Bergman, or at my website, laurelbergman.com. And that's about it. I keep the social media to a dull roar.
So that's all for today. Thank you very much for this interview, Laurel. Don't forget you can subscribe to Kino Society on iTunes and Spotify.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.